Hi. Electronic sushi. That topic comes time and again. I don't know where it came from originally, that whole concept of adding rice to electronics. Rice, yes. Well, just have a look what I got in this job. Yeah, bag of parts of the device mixed with rice. Well, see what's inside. That device, by the way, is a float sensor switch for the water tank or dam and the water pump. So when the flow stops, the pump is engaged to pump out. I mean to pump in the water or out or whatever. And that whole unit fell into the water and was floating in it when found. So that's water damage device, and the owner put it in a rice in hope to let it dry. Well, I tell you what, rice doesn't absorb water, period. Not fast enough in any case to dry anything. Simple experiment. Just next time you're going to have rice for dinner, or even not, you can just put a little bit of rice and pour some water into it, just cold water, and put it aside. Half an hour later, come and observe the rice inside the water. It doesn't change. It doesn't swell. There is no less water. The rice is simply submerged in water. It didn't absorb very well. Well, given time and temperature, of course rice absorbs water while cooking. That's why rice is good for sushi, not for electronics. Rice doesn't do anything to help water damage device. If you don't have the ability to open the device and dry it immediately after an accident, or as soon as you found that something happened to it, there are steps you can take to help minimize the damage. Very simple. If you can't open the device, just submerge it in an alcohol. Well, the water got into it, so alcohol won't create any more problems. In fact, it will help, because alcohol is very funny substance. Not only it is the mild solvent which works on most of organic substances, but also it has almost infinitive ability to absorb water. Well, when you think about it, when you mix alcohol with water, let's say just normal spirit with water, you still got an alcohol in a bottle. If you add more water, You still got alcohol in it. You add more water. Yep, in a bottle there is still alcohol. Yeah, it's weaker. Yes, it may be almost as weak as water, but is still considered an alcohol. And alcohol evaporates very quickly, taking with it water. So if you have nothing better to choose from when your electronic device got water damaged, just submerge it, at least rinse it in alcohol. If you don't have, the best alcohol would be isopropyl alcohol. That's what is used for cleaning the boards. This is technical alcohol used for many, many things, but mostly in electronics for cleaning the boards, cleaning the flux out, cleaning all the other dirties out. Funny enough, when we use the ultrasonic cleaner, which is the special liquid which cleans inside the ultrasonic cleaner in very high frequency vibrations, all the dirt from the board, later we rinse it with alcohol. Well, some people use distilled water and then alcohol. Some people put it just straight into the alcohol and then heat it up. Why? Because alcohol washes out all the residues from that ultrasonic cleaning liquid, and then it evaporates when you heat up the board. So the same principle I would suggest using here in your home environment. Just, you can use any alcohol as long as it is not sweet or flavored. So yeah, wine doesn't count, beer doesn't count, liqueur doesn't count, brandy, bourbon, whiskey probably is not a good idea. However, if you don't have a spirit, methanol, isopropyl alcohol, use some vodka. It is still pure alcohol mixed with water, nothing else. Well, depending what country it comes from, some manufacturers put some nasty things in the alcohol so it goes to your head a little bit quicker and gives you hangover as well. But still, it is considered as pure alcohol as possible. So if you don't have anything better, just use vodka, clear vodka, white vodka. And then using the hairdryer, just warm it up after shaking off the excess of alcohol and drying it with some towel or something. Just warm it up using hairdryer and help evaporate. At least you will, in that case, minimize the damage. You will most likely stop the corrosion from spreading and you minimize the damage. Now, the board will not be fixed. However, it is much better solution than to put it in the rice. The rice is dangerous. It gives you false sense of doing something to it, of helping the issue while you are not. What you do when you put in the rice, you prolong actually the process, letting the corrosion to spread even further. So the first thing when you notice that the device has been water damaged or possibly water damaged or liquid damage, of course, first disconnect it from any power source, being battery or mains socket or whatever. Then, if you can't open it to clean it properly, at least take, let's say, laptop or your mobile phone, or like in this instance, this board, just put it in the alcohol, submerge it. Well, I know you will use half a liter of vodka perhaps. Well, yes, pity. Well, you could drink it after all if you're brave enough, I wouldn't. But you have to ask yourself the question, what is more important? Losing half a liter of vodka or spirit or any methanol, for instance, or any pure alcohol, and stopping potentially the problem with your board very quickly, or letting go this board deteriorate and rot away slowly but surely, covered with rice, which gives you this sense of security that you've done something to stop it, but you didn't. So underneath, actually, the corrosion spreads. And then when it comes to fixing the board, it becomes the problem. So let's have a look what this board looks after the rice treatment. Shall we? I'll put that under the microscope. And then we will examine it together. Now, you have to excuse, this is the problem with most of the microscopes on the market, that actually what you can see is only a small portion of what I can see, and also often the camera and the view through my binoculars don't match with sharpness. However, this time it's not too bad. I'll try to go through the whole board. As you can see, we got pretty obvious water damage symptoms here. So we got this corrosion on the components. This leg, it's been corroded throughout almost. This here, I don't know if you can see it, but this leg is actually corroded really out, separated from the poor resistor. You see? All those tracks are corroded. All this is corrosion, pretty bad. This is after treatment with mighty rice. Do you need any more proof that the rice doesn't do anything? Look at this leg. Right, what else? What else? Oh, this puppy looks really sad. It's just virtually this hot's not holding it together to the board. Nothing much on it. This diode is not as bad as the other one, but still I would replace it. What happens here? Oh, this is just the plastic loose on the shunt. That's fine. That's all right. We'll see closer those elements, those capacitors, those resistors. Well, they don't look as bad. I will still check them, obviously after cleaning, and see this transistor under this hot snot. I don't know. I will have to open that, take this hot glue out. Right, so this is pretty uniform throughout the whole board. Okay, let's see on the other side. Unfortunately, the board is only small, so that's not a problem. Now, this is more alarming. Some of those pads are almost eaten through by rust. That is almost gone. This is cleanable, easy. all that is cleanable, that's not a problem. That via, well, I'm not sure if it is connected to the other side still or it's rusted out. This almost doesn't exist here. Okay, that's just surface corrosion, that's nothing. Surface corrosion, but what funny thing is, why this capacitor is so loose? Alright, the leg gave out. The leg which should be here is not connected anymore. I can't make it go much sharper than that, I guess. We'll see. Alright, we'll have to lower this a little bit. You see, this capacitor is pretty rusty underneath as well. Oh yeah. Nice. Right here. Now. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so what, I'm not sure about this relay, if it is, I'm not sure about this relay, if it is still alright or not. I'm not sure about that capacitor. Actually, this is, but we will all check those things. Those LEDs look alright. That resistor looks alright. Okay, so what I will start doing is just cleaning out some of that stuff. Take out those poor things, those screws and everything from here. Put it back in the box. Open the box. Now we'll start removing some of that gunk. For that I will be using my little, as soon as I find it, that is, here it is. First of all, I will use the dental pick, my basic tool. Okay. Yep. This is my basic tool I use for cleaning, for many things. I got it from, I don't know, eBay or Banggood or AliExpress or somewhere there. Just dental pick. I got actually a couple of them. They are stainless steel. They are very sturdy. This one is a little bit altered by me. I needed to make this small chisel. This is the original, how it looked like. This one is shortened a bit. I needed to make a small chisel, micro chisel out of this bit. I will show, I will post that video of cleaning the different board for which I needed the chisel made a little bit later. Okay. Right. So starting with that little thing, that can go. Well, only this is holding it anyway. That is sort of solid. This is not solid at all. Now, one good tip, how to remove the old hot glue. Just spray it with isopropyl alcohol. And after 30 seconds or so, it will go very easily. It will just simply peel off. I'll try to show you. And funny thing about the hot glue is that once you apply the alcohol to it, well, that is actually silicone, not hot glue. Alright, so they are a little bit better than hot glue. Although it's nothing wrong with hot glue, they used silicone. Well, for silicone, you can use acetone, the same effect, although the alcohol works not bad as well. But with the hot glue, coming back to that topic, and the alcohol, funny thing is that once you remove the hot glue with the alcohol and it dries out, you can still reuse it. You can still melt it back and it will hold. Alright, so that's very good tip I found over the years, how to minimize the wastage. Okay, I have to remove all this silicone, and I don't like using silicone because depending on what kind of silicone they used, just standard silicone is acidic and it will chew up all the metal parts or exposed metal parts with time. So unless they use non-acidic silicone, that's not such a good idea. I would rather use hot glue on this one than silicone. First of all, hot glue is much firmer than silicone. Silicone is still rubbery. For the maintenance, it's much easier to remove the hot glue than silicone. The only problem with hot glue is in an environment where there is a high temperature. For obvious reasons, silicone will withstand it very well, while hot glue not necessarily. So if you have any situation where actually you got high temperature environment, you may consider not using hot glue. It will melt on you. The same goes with epoxy actually. Epoxy melts in slightly higher temperatures, but still will melt. Two-part epoxy will melt in higher temperatures. But funny thing is, once it cools down, it just resets itself. So you don't need to even touch it. As long as it doesn't run into places where you don't want it to run, you're fine. I use epoxy, two-part epoxy, very often. I got this 5-minute set time two-part epoxy, and literally in 5 minutes it's done. I don't need to put it overnight. I mean, yes, it gains strength overnight, but it's not necessary to wait for long. This dental pick is actually a very versatile tool. As you can see, I'm using it extensively in all my work. I can't work without it, actually. Before I got it, I damaged too many tweezer sets. They would bend simply in a situation like that, while this one is very hard and very sturdy. Okay, we almost got this done. Sorry, the view from the microscope is absolutely horrible when it comes to... I'm waiting for delivery of... I've ordered already a little adapter to the camera, which will actually reduce the magnification of it, showing hopefully more view. But nowadays, as with everything, when it comes to delivery from Asia, takes its time. Funny thing, I only 2 weeks ago received 4 items altogether, which I purchased from 4 different vendors in November last year. 2 weeks ago I received that. In one packet. They were all thrown into one bag, one big bag, from 4 different vendors. I don't know what happens. I mean, yeah, I can understand this COVID craziness and all this, but yeah, we live in interesting times. Okay. Now, the rest of it can be dealt with little flat blade. Wherever I can fit this blade. I don't care about scratching the circuit board. It will be more than scratched in a second, or in a few minutes, when I will be trying to restore those tracks and pads. So the silk screen scratches don't worry me at all. That board doesn't go to any competition, any beauty competition anymore. It needs to function after I'm through with it. Okay, so most of that gunk is, this old silicone is out. The transistor may still be alright, I'll check it. Those tantalums may be still alright. I'll check them. Okay. And the rest I will clean as I go, as I need. Right, so now I'll try to clean around those bits and pieces. For that I'm using the little portable engraver tool with needle thin diamond bit. It's battery operated. I have also the Dremel-like, which I was using prior to that, but it's much easier to operate with that one. So what I'm doing with this one is just trying to clean it. All the tracks. Now bear in mind that those tracks are very thin copper, so I'm barely touching them with the tip of it, and see how easy the silk screen is coming out, which means that underneath there is a corrosion. If I go to undamaged track, like this one for instance, and try to scratch it, you see I apply the same amount of force, but that goes much more difficult than this one for instance. This one I just touch it and silk screen just peels off, which means that the corrosion actually went under silk screen. That part doesn't exist anymore. Well, there's still some of it left in there, but that's okay, we'll fix it. This part is alright. I'm just touching it virtually, not pressing at all. Just cleaning the corrosion. All those rusty tracks will have to be cleaned, but that's relatively easily. If you don't clean them, then even if I coat it later with conformal coating to protect it from the moisture, the corrosion would still spread underneath. That's why it is imperative to clean all the corrosion you can see thoroughly. I mean, I don't want to go too deep because obviously I will damage the copper to the point I simply will destroy the copper. It's a very thin layer. Like for instance here, I'll try to zoom in on this one. Okay, what I'll do, I'll just quickly put that in a holder, so I'll have constant height. And once I set up the height for this, I mean the microscope for this height, we'll be able to see it properly together. Okay, I got it sharp here, and it's absolutely not sharp here, so I'll just adjust the camera. Okay, that is as good as I can come. Right. So for instance, this bit of track here is gone. I'll have to bridge it. You see the track just peels off. So I won't attack it anymore here. I'll have to bridge it when I'm restoring the tracks. Now you will notice that this track is light green and a dark green. Wherever is dark green, there is rust, there is corrosion underneath. I mean, some people like to scrape it with the X-Acto knife, I prefer to use this engraver because it's much faster and much more accurate. I can touch it and make the little spot rather than trying to scrape it, replace the blades and what have you. This is much more gentle, would you believe? Yes, I'm virtually, you can tell by the sound that I'm almost not touching it at all. And it's very quick. I'm fighting with a little bit of that silicone here. It will break off. It did just then. Right, a little bit more here. You can see here that very easily this corrosion under the silk screen. Now, part of that track is gone already. You can see it's eaten away. I still have to clean that little bit of rust there, or corrosion. And then I will reinforce this track with the patch. And just look at here. Look what happens here when I clean it. So this track is gone from here to here. We'll have to rebuild it. This track is gone from here to there. So you can see very easily, using this engraver, I'm not destroying those tracks, they're already gone. They are not there before I even touch it. What I do, I just expose whatever is left of the track, and doing so I can easily see what is missing. Now if you try to scrape with X-Acto knife, or hobby knife, or whatever you want to call it, use some force. I don't use any force here at all. In fact, I'm having a hard time not to touch it. I don't want to touch it almost at all. You see, I'm using here and only in some parts. The silk screen is going very easily. In other parts it's a little bit harder, but I still don't want to leave small bits and pieces of the silk screen behind, because when I will be thinning those tracks later, it will interfere. She's almost just looking at the trace, is peeling off the silk screen. So corroded underneath. Now the funny part is, many people wouldn't bother with it. They would say, nah, it's not worth the trouble to try to restore those tracks. Unfortunately, this board is not available anymore. You can't get it. You can't get the replacement. And the new valve, I don't know how much that costs, but it's not compatible with the system they're using out there on the farm. So the only option, not only, but the best option is to fix that board, and probably will be much cheaper than buying the whole new system. So that's what I'm doing the most, restoring old boards. Boards which you can't get the replacement anymore. Now, when the rest of the equipment, let's say this system what they have there out on the farm, works perfectly well, only this valve has corroded, what's the point of changing the whole system or changing the whole setup just because this board is corroded? And you can't get the new one, like the replacement one? Nah. Not worth it. Besides, I'm huge advocate of not throwing things away, which can be repaired. People around here know me that actually I collect all the electronic junk, what other people call junk. Don't let them throw it away into the rubbish tip for several reasons. First of all, unfortunately, in Australia, you can't get new parts easily. You have to import most of the times, or components, I mean. You have to, most of the times, import them from either Asia or from USA. Yes, there are some suppliers in Australia, but they don't have the huge range of things. Whatever they have listed, I mean, often, even if they have listed particular parts, it is their global stock and not what they have on shelf. So they have to import it anyway, from Singapore, from other Asian places. And of course they charge much higher prices than suppliers from Asia. So if they have something in stock, which I need fairly quickly, yes, I will go and buy that. But if they have to import it first, so can I. So therefore I go to buy in Asia, like online of course. The only problem is it used to take a few weeks, and nowadays it takes a few months from Asia to come to Australia. I don't know, maybe the water is thicker and the paddling is harder, I don't know. Okay, most of that is done. Didn't take me long at all. Now I'll use my little brush to clean it with alcohol. See what happens. You see, I'm using alcohol to clean the board in big quantities, and I'm not worrying about it, you know. So the same thing applies to what I said at the beginning. If you have water damaged board, just submerge it in alcohol. Don't worry about it. And the alcohol will actually absorb the water and will later evaporate with it. At least it will stop the corrosion from further spreading throughout the board. Okay. Gee, that camera is awful. Right, so I'll now turn to the other side. Actually, before I do that, I'll remove those components. What I normally do, another hint, I'm taking the photo with my mobile before I remove anything from the board. I mean, that capacitor was gonna anyway. But what I will do, I'll just take the photo of the board from several angles, actually, to remember what was where. Before removing any parts. Well, at that I'll also take photo of this side. No, I don't want that. Okay. Okay. Alright, so now I'm happy to start removing those components, which I have to remove to clean out the traces underneath. Some of them I'll have to replace, but right now I need to take the very short break.